Welcome to Jocko Willink's Leadership Strategy and Tactics.
Extreme.
We're going to talk about ownership and leadership, but not too much.
Again.
You want to be humble.
On the other hand,
So one thing I realized this morning, and I just told you before we started filming, is that he does mention that this is a field manual. It's not meant to be read from cover to cover, although most people will do that. So I guess the first time you read it, that's what you do. But then if you're like in a leadership position, you go back to this book for strategies and, you know, different tactics for different scenarios. But if you do read it from cover to cover, I don't recommend you read it at all, you know?
no, there's just it's so if you only read one section, let's just give a title just for example. Like if you use imposter syndrome, you want to see if you have the imposter syndrome. You want to read it on its own, it's probably going to be great. Mm-hmm. But if you read the whole book, there's some parts in imposter syndrome that you're going to read 10, 15, 20 times during the book.
Yeah.
Like it's so repetitive. It's insane.
Yeah. I'm torn for this book because I loved it at first. And then you made me realize how, you know, he keeps going back and forth on different ideas.
I
Like,
ruined the book for you, didn't I?
But
well,
on the other hand,
you did. Like he gives an example, but then he goes back on his idea, and it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? He's
always flip-flopping.
Contredit.
Yeah, flip-flop.
Contradicts himself.
Yeah,
Well, it's not just he contradicts. It's like sometimes I feel like he thinks we're stupid. Like it's like he gives a point on, you know, you want to communicate, or, you know, leaders have to take out the trash. They have to do the shitty jobs so that your subordinates know that you're also willing to do that type of stuff. But on the other hand, you also can't only focus on that. You have to also focus on leadership skills. Well, we know that. We're not stupid. I mean, like, it's just there's a point, like, if it's the first book you ever read, might be good for you.
I'm curious to know if his subordinates actually liked him as a leader or thought he was just a piece of garbage leader, you know?
It'd be interesting to know that.
Yeah. Great ideas. I think it's well written, the book, if you don't read it from cover to cover.
Mm-hmm.
It was getting long at the end.
Yeah.
We just finished a book that was 90 pages long in Make Your Bed.
Yeah.
And had as much info as
This should have been the same type of book, I
It
think.
should have been about 100 pages.
I love his examples of war and, you know, being in SEALs and stuff like that, tactics and stuff. I love that, but very, very repetitive. Kind of like what we're doing now. We're being very repetitive about the book because we don't know what else to say for this episode.
But on the other hand, it's a great book.
Yeah.
There are, for me, when I judge a book, is how many things can I take from it and apply it in my own personal life or business. And there are lots of things in that book that I find that are great.
Yeah.
So if you're new to leadership, strategy, and tactics, it's not a bad book. Like there is some stuff, but there's also a lot of fillers. Like there's I read or I listened to a podcast somewhere anyway that what Jocko does is every single morning he writes for 1 hour. It doesn't matter how many pages he gets done, he writes for 1 hour. Well, maybe stop writing one day and just research some new stuff or do some other work. But if you just write and write and write, at one point you're going to, you know, run out of material.
Are you guys following him on his Instagram page?
No.
No? He's up every morning at 4:30. He's very consistent. Working out and then just going with his routine.
Well, that's his whole brand, right?
Yeah.
Just every single day go at it.
The guy's not an idiot. I mean, he did build like a multi-million-dollar empire when he retired, right? What's the name of his company?
The leadership coaching?
Yeah.
It escapes me, but it's a consultation firm. He now has a jean company.
Jeans?
Sells jeans.
Really?
Yeah. He's like reviving the local economy.
Are they like ankle cut because he's not sure if they should keep going or stop at the ankles?
What you want is a boot cut, but not too low.
Low rise.
Capris are the best way to go halfway.
I'm truly torn with this book because there are things that I definitely see myself using or trying to learn out of, but I'm sure there's a better leadership book out there. And I'd be curious to read Extreme Ownership.
Just not now.
Just not now. I need a break from Jocko.
Yeah, because especially if, start the book and then you do a bit of audiobook with it, I can't hear his voice anymore.
I don't think it's safe to talk like this about a Navy SEAL. He'll knock on our door and kick our asses. Yeah.
But we should maybe mention that Jocko is he's done great stuff.
Yes.
We might not like this book, but the guy is not a nobody.
I like listening to him on his podcast. I like listening to Jocko when he's a guest.
Jocko, one thing we need to say about him is that the guy's all ears. All the time.
Because he's got them big ears?
Because he's got big ears.
Big ears.
I'm going to get my ass kicked by him.
Jeez.
Good thing we're far away.
Chris will disappear into the night.
Wow.
One by one.
Huh. So he was on the same platoon as Chris Kyle? It's not a joke. It's not a joke, I promise. You remember Chris Kyle, the American Sniper movie and the book?
Oh, no, I don't.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I mean, he was a part of the...
Iraq War.
Yeah, so the platoon that... the most famous platoon, I guess. So, anyways, hats off to Jocko.
There was one thing in there that resonated with me. The the chapter about not losing your cool.
Yeah.
Because if you're always emotional... people won't take you seriously, right? But if once in a while you just you need to have impact and you raise your voice and you're more serious than people have ever seen you, then it's impactful. But if you're always losing your shit, people just won't react to it. It
doesn't matter. You lose your shit and then they just take it for, okay, it's just normal.
It's just a typical Tuesday.
Well, the problem if you always yell is when shit hits the fan, how do you raise it? How do you make your point now that it's a bad time? So no, it's I agree.
That resonates with me.
One thing I found really interesting too is when one of your subordinates isn't listening or isn't quite doing what you would expect of him or her to do, you put him or her in a leadership position. Let them lead. Let them learn from
something meaningful.
Experience. Yeah, I found, like I said, there are great strategies in there for sure, and those are just to name a few there.
It is a good book. If you reduce it to 100 pages,
we're doing
max,
exactly
max, and all the different chapters, if they'd be one page, it'd be phenomenal, or maybe 2 pages. It'd be one of the best books I've ever read.
It should be a smaller book and an actual field manual.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That you can
he
stuff in your briefcase.
And that's what he intended to do, but it was 300 pages.
Too big, Jocko. Too big of a book.
Yeah. If it was a binder with tabs on different situations, I'm that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be a next level.
One thing that I have to give him praise for is the Audible version. The guy knows how to read his book properly and in a way where it's interesting to listen until Mr. Cedrick ruined it for me. But his Audible version is really good too.
Good. So let's jump right into the rating session because I think that's what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. So you guys go first because I always go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I gave it a 4 because it's not a terrible book.
Wow.
Because
what a shocker.
Well, here's my thing. So
I'm gonna be
why what? Well, no. So here's my reasoning behind the 4. We've been reading a lot of books, so I think we're influenced by other books. If you stack this up against Make Your Bed, I think it doesn't compare because Make Your Bed is a shotgun of a book. It's small, it's impactful. This one is a little bit too much fluff, but a lot of great strategies that you can use. So it is a good lesson to learn in here. So it's not a bad book.
But it should be like that, though.
Yeah.
We should compare, 5 is the max. Best book ever. Cannot beat that. So, there needs to be a framework, right?
Yeah, but I also think it's not as bad as Spark.
Spark.
I enjoyed this better than Spark. So I think
Right.
I was debating on either putting a 3.9 or a 4. I went with 4 because if you do run into a problem with your team and you want to find out how to fix it, go back to the book and find the proper section and you'll learn a thing or two. You know? So I think for me it's a 4. A sad 4.
I'll start by saying that, Jocko, I respect you a lot. So here's how I rate books for me. I might be different than you guys, but the first part, like I said, is can I apply stuff with this? Number 2 is, are you wasting my time? And you've wasted a lot of my time. Like, it's just hours that I cannot get back. And for me, so there's good enough stuff for a 4.5 in my opinion. But you've wasted so much of my time that I had to deduct 2 points. So 2.5 for me.
Okay.
2.5. Because there are some good stuff. And you know what? It was about to be a 2. I came in today giving a 2, but you pointed out to me that this is supposed to be a field manual, which if we take it this way, it's true.
That alone made me change my mind.
Yeah, I added 0.5 because of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I added 0.1 because, anyways, I can't go back. Extreme ownership. I'll own my 4.
It's high.
Yeah.
Jocko, you're a good man. You served your country. There's lots of respect owed to you. The times I've listened to you on podcasts, it's always been super interesting. And this book does have some interesting parts of it. But unfortunately, like Cedrick said, it's super repetitive. And I'm going to have to give it a lower mark than halfway. So it's going to be 2.4 for me. Sorry, it's just... if you're not used to self-development books, you might find this more interesting than myself because we read a lot of books on this.
That might be his target market too.
Yeah, and that's maybe it's not written for us. A few good nuggets in here for sure, but the audiobook was 8 hours long, and I think it was about 7 hours too long, in my opinion.
There might have been a factor too of the expectation of it.
Yeah,
I was very, very excited to read that book.
Yeah,
like I like the guy. I've listened to his stuff. I think he has a lot of value to bring to the table. And then the first 50 pages, I'm like, not bad. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. And then, slowly but surely, I was like, okay, what's going on?
It's it's super annoying the way that he says, on the other hand, or,
There is one part where he says,
or
and he does say like the importance of saying we, but there is a lot of I and myself and me in this book, and like the only bad rating that I found about this book was just that, someone pointing that out. So
yeah, and it is true, like you mentioned, like you researched it, and there's a lot of good ratings on the book. We're the minority here that doesn't like the book.
I think
the idea of it being repetitive sort of infected our group.
Yeah, for sure.
And we were kind
bad idea virus,
We were reading the book having that in mind at the end, and it probably.
Oh man.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe if we wouldn't have talked in between, it would have been different.
Let's reread the book, but every time
insane.
Every time he goes back on his idea, we take a shot. Then we'll be fucking hammered by the end of the book.
By the end of chapter 1.
And we're all going to give it a 4.2. Yeah, boy. But I think because we read Make Your Bed right before, which is an awesome, smaller book, we had high expectations for this one. And when I first started reading this one, I thought for sure, hey, this is at least a 4.5 because I enjoyed it. I like how, he puts you in his shoes while running a mission or something. You can picture yourself in there.
Well, and that's the thing. There's a lot of if I'm in the army, even better book, because there's a lot of stuff that explains how they attack, how they go into a building, but these examples are too long for the purpose of this book, Because if you're trying to learn about leadership skills in a business scenario, you don't need to know 4 pages of how to enter a building.
Mm-hmm.
And although it was very interesting to me, at one point when if you're just trying to get some nuggets on how to get better out of this book, it's too long.
Yeah, it is.
So towards the end, there's a chapter about never quit. And when he says, sometimes maybe you should quit, but then he says, maybe it shouldn't be called quitting, but retreating. So I think halfway through the book, he should have retreated. And just section 1, amazing. Section 2 is like section 1.2, basically.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's just finish it.
Yeah.
Let's finish this.
Yeah.
Thank you for writing this book, Jocko. There are some enjoyable parts in it. And have you decided on a book for the next book club?
No.
Not yet?
No.
It's you and Rami next week.
That's true.
That's right, because we're off to Niagara.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, I guess that's it, Jer. Anything else? We're good?
Noah?
Are you buying yourself time because you don't know how to sign off?
No, I sort of want to throw in a sponsorship. This beautiful studio that we're in right now. It's called the G-Man Podcasting Studio. If you guys are local to Ottawa and you're interested in filming your own stuff, or if you're interested in podcasting, producing more content for your business, or if you're just interested in a topic and you'd like to share it with the world, get in contact with Jeremy. I'm sure he'll be able to post a link below this episode. And take advantage of this. This is great. It's a great service that he's offering. He's got wonderful equipment. It's definitely upped our quality of content for sure. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Well, we will see you all next week. Cedrick and Rami. What would be like, would it be Charlie? What's a J? Charlie, Georgia?
Georgia for a J?
What's a phonetic for, you would be Charlie? Juliet?
That's a J.
A G? We don't know. Anyways, signing off.
Oh, weeks.
We'll see you next week. Ciao.